I'll tell you what, mate, it's been a little while since I've seen you.
Yeah, we're both just as ugly, aren't we?
I'll tell you what, mate, and you've got the bookshelf in the background.
The record library.
Where's the record library?
It's my 7-inch record library. There's no room upstairs.
How many records you got?
Sadly, we've just moved house, so I've had to rearrange them. There's 7,600 there.
It's incredible, isn't it, Ian?
There's a load of albums upstairs. I've never sold anything right from the late 60s being a DJ, mate.
Really?
No, even the crap. I've kept the crap.
Can we like sort of like rewind the clock? And I'm really interested in to find out what was your very, very first. When did you fall in love with the entertainment industry? Where was that?
What actually happened to me was I built a twin turntable unit for somebody. I thought he was mad. I thought, what do you want 2 turntables for? Anyway, I did this thing for him, and he never paid me. So I got this kit, wondering what the hell to do with it. And somebody said, well, there's a bit of a thing going on at the local village hall.
Yeah.
Why don't you just come along and play some music? And there was a small amount of money involved. And I thought, well, that might be a way of getting some money back for what I've paid doing the kit. And I thought, oh, actually, I quite like this. So I did it a bit more. And then I did it a bit more. And it just went from there, mate. And I started building kit, mending kit. And it was my job, wasn't it? I mean, I trained as an electronics engineer. So.
But hang on a minute. So we've got this young Ian, and
Yeah.
you've got a customer that wants to put 2 turntables together into one console kind of thing.
Yeah, I built the mixer and everything.
Is that the beginning, though? Is that the beginning of
Yeah, it is really.
I mean, did you kind of like create by mistake? Did you create the twin decks and the central?
No, in America a long time, hadn't it?
Had it?
Yeah. I remember the first week. I remember going in to my then wife and saying, I have earned as much money today as I have the whole week working for Granada Broadcasting. I think I might be able to turn this into a job. Yes, I know you're pregnant and we need to keep the roof over our head. And I've not got a badly paid job at all. But you know what? If I don't do it, I'm going to regret it.
Is this the time that you then decide to jack the job at Granada Broadcasting? A proper job with real career, real prospects. And then you decide that's it.
A bit of safety. Well, yeah, I mean, I'd seen other people do things. A little man called Roger Squire.
Squire, yeah.
He managed to go from Junction Road, London, to most of the cities in the UK, didn't he, in his heyday?
He did.
And we had to go to London to buy kit. There was nowhere up here at all. So there was my opening. I remember going down and buying some kit in Junction Road, and I was met by this tall guy who seemed to know what he was talking about, and he sold me some kit. And that man's John Petts.
John Petts.
Who's still a friend today.
John Petts. Now, he is the sort of guy that you'll never forget, John Petts, isn't he? Very cool, full of charisma.
Stick him on your pod list because he'll have umpteen stories. I tell you.
You know what? I think John Petts is definitely got to be on there, isn't he?
Get hold of Petsy boy. He'll tell you a few stories. But yeah, I mean that's how it really happened. And so I went and I applied for a job with Roger Squire in 1978.
Oh, did you? And where was the branch then?
Well, it was a brand new branch opening in Birmingham on Broad Street.
Okay.
And the head office was in Barnet. So I went down there, did my interview, got the job, and then I took 2 weeks off work, off Granada, took my holiday, and I went around all the other places he's got, just to see what they were like and what I had to do and everything. And I never met a happy manager.
Oh, you're joking?
No, well, they weren't, stringing themselves up, but there wasn't many positives. There's lots of negatives. And I thought, I don't want to walk into this. Maybe I should do this for myself. I phoned Roger up and gracefully declined the offer of the job and started Leamington Sight and Sound. That was on the 5th of November, 1984.
You remember it. You remember the day. You remember
Well, you can't forget bonfire night, can you?
No.
Because I thought this is my opening night, my opening day. It might be a crash and burn day as well.
Then Leamington Sight and Sound, you know, there it is, right there. That is the beginning for you, and you straight away you're going head to head with Roger Squires, aren't you?
Yeah, but he was nowhere near Warwickshire and stuff. And I mean, all I did really was transfer all that Sunday work into the week and sales, because at those days it was proper retail. You were selling stuff. You know, I bought from you.
You did.
You know, and Kevin Hopcroft, he was the first man to give me any credit.
Was he really?
Yeah, because I was doing some pubs at the time, and I was sticking his PA 220s in the pubs I was doing, and I was buying 6 a time. And I remember turning around to him and saying, "Kev, this is stretching my cash flow a bit." Although I don't think I used that language in them days. I was, "Kev, you're skinting me. Any chance of a bit of time, you know?" And yeah, he gave me credit. So he was the first man. Saw his podcast. That was interesting. His journey is very similar to mine, a bit accidental.
I think when you sort of look back at the majority of people so far podcasted, their whole entertainment life has been very much driven by a passion to want to do it. And neither of us, I don't think any one of us has really thought about, you know, cash flow, how much it's going to cost us, when we're going to run out of money.
No.
It was never about the money.
No, I must admit, obviously when I left the safety of Granada and actually took the plunge, I did think to myself, well, I've got to work hard at this, because yes, there's a wife, children and a roof over my head to think of, but we had a very successful mobile discotheque company. Not as big as Kevin. If he had several hundred, I didn't have several hundred. I had about 11.
Yeah.
But it was turning over then about £600 a week, and that's 1978, 79.
I mean, that's like massive amounts of money, isn't it? When you actually think back, it's like turnover.
It fed us, watered us, paid the mortgage, did everything in them days. I mean, my first house was only 10,760 quid. I mean, let's face it, you can't put the wheels on a car for that now, can you?
I know. My first house was 18,200.
We sold it for 27 and bought for 27 about 3 years later. Yeah. So yeah, you know.
So you kind of did start in that sort of mobile disco sector.
Yeah. There was still, I didn't retire to 98.
Really?
Yeah. My last New Year's Eve gig was 1989, because they used to get booked a couple of years in advance.
You then started to distribute programs Sistemi, didn't you, from Italy?
Yes. UKD started. The story on that one is, I had a customer who used to visit me every Saturday morning, and he worked for the Corona pop bottle people.
Yeah.
And in those days, they used to go around in a truck, drop the full ones off, pick up the empties. And he said to me one day, "Why don't we do a similar thing to improve sales and stuff? Why don't I just fill a van up full of gear and take it round the shops?" And he come back empty, well, virtually empty, I remember. And I thought, oh, there might be something in this. Now, that man's name's Peter Madison.
Peter Madison.
Yes.
Wow.
And that grew and grew, so it had to be separate. So we called it United Kingdom Distributors, UKD, and we chose 2 areas nobody else was interested in, which was Northern Ireland and Scotland. Everybody says, "You are mad, Ian, trucking all the way up to Scotland." But we stayed over each night, and we came back empty. And that went on and on and on. But then, of course, along came the internet, eBay, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Chinese started bringing products into the country. You'll remember that more than me, because it affects us.
Oh my goodness! I mean, it was more than affected; it destroyed our business.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we remember selling, like you probably know, you know, we was doing twisters in the hundreds every week, and that
well, Mr. Watts,
of each model.
As I said in an email to you recently, this man took me into, I think it was a porter cabin, where he was putting this light together that he called a moonbeam or something. Would I want to sell them? I believe that turned into a twister and abstract, didn't it?
It did. It did. Yeah. That porter cabin was at Peckleton Business Park.
Oh, I can't remember where it was. I just remember you taking me into it.
Yeah, it was a porter cabin. It was. And that's when
I think, and it's not an old git speaking, but I think as you've already intimated in other podcasts, I think we cracked it. We started, and it all kind of grew up around us at the best time, when you could be 50% serious, 50% fun. I think we had the best time. There's a lot of companies, an awful lot I remember my eyes opened the first time I went to Rimini. I didn't know there was that many companies making lighting effects and speakers. First time I went to Germany to the music messe, I thought, how many speakers do you need?
When we went to exhibitions in the very early days, you had real manufacturers that were the core designers and developers of those products. And still yet, we had maybe 200-300 companies in one place. A lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Plaza in the early days was brilliant fun. We got away with murder, all of us, really, in reality.
Well,
and
it nearly was murder, wasn't it? Certain evenings.
Yeah, it probably was.
I can remember a few of them.
We had a lot of. We did have
table racing in the Rose and Crown in Rimini, mate. Can you go from the front door to the back door and land on the beach without touching the floor? I mean, come on, how daft were we?
Because you could either go out the front door or the back door at the Rose and Crown, couldn't you? So if you got your table hopping bang on, you should be able to go straight down past the bar, table to table, round past the little guy on the side playing his
little band,
straight through the bit at the back. Do you remember the trestle tables at the back?
Yeah.
The smoking bit.
Yeah.
You should be able to jump hard enough and land over the street onto the beach.
I took some of your stuff to Rimini, Kevin's. Rick Wilson's, Cam at the time.
Yeah.
I took them all because the idea was that it paid for the trip, and so I'd go out and I wasn't going to come back empty because I picked up my own stuff from Program System. Yeah.
And it worked, didn't it? And it
did work. Yes, it wasn't as daft as it seemed. Actually, it saved a lot of money.
It did save a lot of money. For companies like myself, it was the perfect solution because you got somebody you knew who was coming to pick all your stuff up.
You knew it was going to get there.
You knew it was going to get there. Because one thing with you is, over time, you've been proven to be incredibly reliable. That is one thing with you, Ian, is you are an incredibly reliable person. You've always been reliable. And
you don't let people down, do you?
No, and it's not, it's not even anywhere in your psyche. It's like, any time for a business that we've had business together, you've always been talkative and you'd always chat about your issues and your problems.
Yeah.
But you'd always stand by them and sort everything correctly. And that's
try.
A thing.
All you can do is try, mate. And you've got to keep your wits about you, and you've got to look at how it's going. And I saw this thing called the internet come up, and I saw a few people in those early days trying to trade on it, and I thought it's not going to be long before that's a proper shop.
Yeah.
And then this thing called eBay came about, and then I started getting people coming into the shop on a Saturday to eye up a few products that they were then going to buy cheaper on eBay in the week.
Yeah.
So I decided to shut my Coventry shop because that wasn't going anywhere. We took a long look at hire. And it got to a stage with the rules and regulations that you either did hire in a big way. We choose the not at all route.
You got kind of caught, like people like David Graham from Sound Division. There's another.
Oh, yeah.
Both of you guys got caught into that era where you threw everything at retailing big time. In your case, you was retailing and distributing, so you're slightly different. David
Spread
Graham,
your risks, Dave.
Yeah, and David Graham was just, he was just necessarily probably retailing. You'd have, 6 pages, one after another, wouldn't you, in the Disco Mirror?
Yeah.
Whatever magazine it was. But, at some point, there would become this time, wouldn't there, where a DJ or entertainer would walk into your showroom, like they would walk into the showroom for David Graham Sound Division, and they'd eye everything up, make you play the music, make you demo the sound system, go home, go on the internet, and then buy that exactly same thing for 20% cheaper from somebody selling online. And even Abstract at that point, we had the same issues whereby, we'd sell in pure, proper honest pricing structure. And then you'd get retailers then discounting your product by 20%. And then 20% discount, and we'll pay the VAT. It's making like a tenner on £100 light, making 10.
Well, the only thing about that would be you have to watch your debt, don't you? Because that guy eventually is not going to be able to pay you. He can't even pay himself out of that tenner, so he's not going to pay you eventually. And I always thought those people who are putting in consistently larger orders each time, I got very wary of. Instead of becoming very happy with that situation, I got wary of it. I thought, hold on a minute, one of these orders one day you're not going to pay for because you can't. And then they disappeared.
And that's it, you see, because you was a distributor as well as a retailer, so you've got both you're looking at both sides.
Well, it gave me a great feel for the country, Steve.
It did, yeah.
I might be a big fish in the little Leamington pond, but what's everybody else doing? What is Scotland doing? Northern Ireland doing? What's Manchester doing? All these big names that were, like you say, advertising in the paper. Some of them, Steve, when you got there, they weren't so big. Others surprised you, and you thought, bloody hell, this is marvellous. This is a good showroom, this is. But it gave you a yardstick. It gave me, where do I stand in this? Where am I in the league? Did
you ever come across Eddie Smile?
Yeah. He got the right surname, hadn't he? Because when you mention him, everybody smiles. Oh yeah, God's truth. Mr. Ropelight.
Yeah, it was, and of course, Mr. Ropelight from Kevin.
Yeah.
When I was listening to Kevin Hopcroft telling me how the customer that wanted that helped him create the rope light because he just wanted a really, really strong string of lights, to put around a hole in the road or whatever, when they dug it up, you know what I mean? And then Kevin's like, yeah, I can do that for you, mate, no problem. Then he's thinking, if I put colours in here and like chase it on me SX1000, and then Eddie Smile comes along, sees it and goes, right, that's it, I'm off. And off he goes, selling these blinking rope lights like crazy.
In my little search for people that were, I can't find Eric Matthews, who was Elm, E11. He made lots of light chasers.
Oh, he did, yes.
He was in Cornwall, Red Roof in Cornwall. I've sent emails, I've done all sorts. I first saw him at Badeham, way back in Bloomsbury Crest. And that's where I met Rob Peck as well, from Ice Electrics.
Ice Electrics.
Ice Electrics had the booth next to Sotronic, both making consoles and amplifiers. I bought an amplifier off Rob Peck, and until very recently, it was still in service as a test amplifier in my service department.
Was he really? So it kept on.
Yeah, there's only some twat who blew it up.
So if you look back then, I mean, when you look back, all these names that you kind of remember, I mean, they all started in such humble beginnings, didn't we?
We started with an idea. We didn't start with a business. If we did it well enough, the money would be there for us to live.
Correct.
Paul Marsden, Pulsar, right? Made a little light chaser in his shed at the bottom of his garden, and he made a few, and he called it Pulsumation, and it was orange with silver knobs, and I've got one because he wanted it back off me, and I wouldn't let him have it. So yeah,
I'm right.
Look where they went, mate.
I'm trying to get Mr. Marden, to come on the podcast. He's resisting.
Best of luck with that one.
He's resisting a little bit.
Yeah.
He said, well, I've not been in it for 7 years. I'm retired now. I can't remember it really. I'm like, you can remember everything, and I'm going to get it out of you.
Well, he went from his shed to having an arrangement with Clay Packy.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's
making their electronics, because the Italians, marvelous at ideas and invention and design, but they couldn't put electronics together to save their life.
Isn't that so funny? I mean, I remember even with the program system and stuff.
It was awful.
Electronic side was it was like so basic, but it did its job. It was expensive cards in there.
I remember having a twister in for repair, and it had a little sound to light board in it about the size of a matchbox.
It was.
And I looked at, on the other bench, I looked at a bit of program system and I thought, that's a sound to light board, and it's about the size of an A5 piece of paper.
I know.
What's going on here? Somebody's got something wrong somewhere. And it's...
I remember Chuck Davis from American DJ. His service department opened a twister, okay, and he calls me about 3 a.m. because he wouldn't care less if it was 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. He'd have to get out of bed and talk to him for an hour. Right, that's just the way it was. I was doing business with American DJ, and he says, "Steve, I've got this really spooky product that you sent me called a twister." He says, and it like changes direction to the music, and it doesn't matter how loud it is or how soft it is, it still does it. I can't find the volume knob, right? And he said, funny, it is really, really spooky, this thing, because I opened it and I can't find the circuit board. I can find a small switchboard that makes it switch, but I can't find the circuit board. Where is it?
Yeah.
And he was expecting to find like some sort of card in the side of it, the size of a book. Yeah. And there's this little like 1 inch by 2 inch card in the corner that did everything. It did the switching, the sound light, the microphone process, the volume control.
Talking of that, because of my trips to Rimini, I struck up a bit of a relationship with Pierre Norman, who runs Clay Packy.
Yeah.
And I've recently been back on a holiday because of all the times I went to Italy, and everywhere I went in Italy, I never did the lakes. So I went to Lake Garda for a bit of an holiday and to have a bit of a think, as you do, and realised I was only 70 kilometres from Clay Packy. So I rang up and I went round there. They've got a museum of lighting there.
Oh, have they?
And I would recommend that to anybody. If you want to visually go back in time, there's so much in there I remember repairing, and all the slip rings and all the big motors, and there's all their old stuff there. And there's a lot of Pulsar stuff there as well, of course, because, they made it and Pulsar shipped the electronics over. That was a good day spent out of my holiday, that was, because it was a right anorak day. But the guys got good English, as they all have, and I was the only one there.
We're talking now way before abstracts. I worked in a company called Copperluth, and Copperluth was in, I don't know if you ever remember them, but Copperluth was in Spain. And you got Satel, hadn't you? And I was in a German nightclub. Okay, I was a DJ, giving it the old 1-2s, and I was the house disc jockey. Was there for 3 years. And this guy called Pepe, who was the owner of Copperluth on the same industrial estate as Satel, and the brothers had all come together and created this cooperative that was called Copperluth, Cooperative Light. Okay, and so he comes up to me and he says, "Can you speak English?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I am English." "Oh, ich nicht sprechen English. Können Sie bitte Deutsch sprechen? Can you please speak German?" I can say, "Yeah, ich spreche Deutsch. I can speak German." Oh, fantastic. So we have this conversation in German, and he says, "Would you please come to Madrid and live? Because my lady, that is my export manager, is pregnant and she leave, and I need you now. Can you come this weekend?" I said, "Well, it's Saturday now. It's Saturday now. Come tomorrow." Right? He says, "I have a nightclub in Madrid called Titanic. And so you can work in Titanic at the weekend and work in Copperluth in the week. Okay? I'll give you a job." And I thought, Yeah, why not? As you do when you're 21, don't you?
Yeah.
And off I went, and that's what I did. I went off to Copperluth, and that's how I got my legs for manufacturing lights, because they were a massive discotheque lighting manufacturer. But here's the thing: this is the real twist of fate. Okay, so because I couldn't speak Spanish, not a word, couldn't get on with it, no way. So he would tell me, "Oh, we have the English guys from Jive Light. I don't know if you remember Jive Light, do you?
Yep. Dave.
Dave from Jive
Yep.
Light, right?
Yep.
Well, Mike Hendon, wouldn't it? Would have worked for Dave, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did, didn't he? He did.
For a short period of time when Luton Sound and Light
He did.
finished, he fell out with his brother, didn't he, Mike?
That's it.
Chris Hendon he fell out with, and he went to work for well, it was Lemaitre really, but yeah, Jive Light, yeah. Dave.
That's it, right?
The storyteller, mate. You know.
Well, Dave would ring me up in Copperluth, okay, and he'd say, "Right, Steve, I've got these like batch of mirror balls or whatever, and the motor, is turning, but it's catching a little bit on one of the edges. Can you fix it?" Oh, okay, no problem. So I'll go down to the factory and try and explain to him, "Look, this is rubbing here. Can you, change it?" And no. What do you mean no? You need to fix it. No. Right, so I go to Pepe and go, "Pepe, this is fucking ridiculous, mate. I've got to sort this out. I need to go and fix it." "Okay, I give you permission. You can go factory and you can fix it." Well, that's not how it works, mate. Right? Anyway, so I went down and I had to learn how to punch the machines, everything. I had to learn everything about manufacturing just to fix problems. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Right? And of course, in doing so, it then put me into an R&D league, didn't it? Kind of. Right? Very soft R&D place, but that soft R&D became a very, very certain R&D, and that's where we invented the Moonflower for the very, very first time, because we got a dish from their spinning factory, which was just like a dish that you put a light bulb in, and they used to hang them. It was just like a fancy light bulb, that's all it was, and a dish. So we fitted all the mirrors from the mirror ball factory onto the dish, then fitted the dish onto a motor, and then found a follow spot lens, great big thing, 10-inch thing, a huge follow spot lens, stuck that on, and a 575 arc lamp.
Oh, that ended up being quite a bright Moonflower, that.
But when we switched it on, right, it went like 100 meters down. I mean, this factory is huge anyway. It went all the way down the factory and looked amazing as it's spinning, just in white beams, yeah?
Yeah.
And somebody put a smoke machine on.
That's the one.
And at that point, the world changed. There it was, right there.
Yeah.
At that point, life changed.
Yeah. My retail days changed when I realised I could sell one smoke machine for 300 quid, called a ZR20 Gem. Funny enough, John Petts again.
John Petts, yeah.
When the Chinese started and everything else started, I would have to sell 10 to take 300 quid. And I just thought, I'm working 10 times as hard for the same money. Whereas we just went the install and maintenance route.
It pays the bills. And like all the installation companies, like obviously you became a pro install company, like you just said, and you did. I mean, I remember you putting in pixel pads. You were the first guy with pixel pads.
First pixel pad install down in Cardiff.
Yeah, it was. Was it like an Australian brand or something? Well, you did something for, what was that for? I'm just trying to remember now. But you've done so many, and you were the first one. You were the first in with the pixel pads. You made the first pixel pad installation.
Programmed them up via Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark from MBSL.
Yep. Still cracking on ears, him and Alan. Yeah.
Still surviving, still doing their thing. And I mean, you kind of got out of it at the right time, really, because there's not much I can really ask you about COVID-19 because you retired, so it's irrelevant.
Well, my thoughts on it are, yes, it's going to change the way we work. I think it's going to teach people what money is worth. I mean, I learned that a long time ago, because like everybody, mate, the first lot of money I had, if I look back now, I wasted. Because you think you've cracked it, don't you? You think, hey,
yeah, you think
1988 it was for me, when I wasn't printing money, but we had the cars between us and house, and we went on holidays and all that, and you just thought the world was great. And then 1991 came along. I think Adrian Brooks touched on it. When I woke up one day and thought, well, where's all that gone?
You kind of safeguarded yourself to a point, haven't you, by going into property and diversifying in that way.
First thing you do, Steve, is equal your wages.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is learn how to take the money out of one property and put it in another. So you keep leapfrogging along, right?
All right. So there's a bit of a trick to it then.
There's lots of tricks to it.
No.
I'm doing serviced accommodation at the moment, which is I own it, but I don't do nothing else. The company comes in and they put short-term rent in there. And in Leamington, it's fabulous because we've got Aston Martin, Jaguar Land Rover, Tata Steel, National Grid, Severn Trent. They've all got 3-month contract people.
You're supplying the accommodation for the short.
Stick Warwick Castle, Kenilworth Castle, the Great Royal Leamington Spa on top of that, and you've got your tourists at the weekend.
Look behind you, right, at that great big amount of records, right? Well, I want you to turn around and randomly pick one out, and let's see what record it is.
This could be embarrassing, couldn't it?
What this could be my opening song on today's radio show, courtesy of you. So they just pick a random one out, any random.
Oh, I don't mind this one. It's Robert Palmer, Looking for Clues.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Robert Palmer, Looking for Clues. The late, great Robert Palmer, sadly, but yeah.
How long do you think it is since that record has been in your hands?
I haven't played this 7-inch for a very long time. I'm a bit of a Robert Palmer fan, actually. I've got the albums upstairs, but yeah, years, mate. I wouldn't like to say.
Now you've got to put it back in the same place.
Don't worry.
The OCD.
Like all good anoraks, we know where it goes.
I mean, that's fantastic record collection.
So I don't want the property to become a business. I just wanted it to equal my wages. You add on top of that other bits and a few investments. I live all right. I don't want a great big mansion in the middle.
That's what Kevin Hopcroft has done. You can see straight away he's become a radio host like I have. He's enjoying.
I got asked as well.
He's enjoying. Honestly, he's enjoying every minute of that.
Well, I got asked to do hospital stuff, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be.
It's just
something. Yeah. I'm glad Kevin's doing that because he's a good lad. I like Kevin.
He is, and I think for his podcast and everything, you realise that although he was the managing director of NJD, but the guy's just a nice guy as well, isn't he?
He's a funny bloke. I mean, when I used to work quite closely with him, we did a few exhibitions. In fact, I was on his stand at Rimini one year, and he used to say to me, "Sometime today, I am going to say this," and he'd come out with a phrase. And you'd spend all day listening. When he's talking to somebody, you'd spend all day listening for this little phrase, overhearing his conversation with some guy who asked how something worked. And then it would come out and he'd give you that little look as if to say, "Told you I'd say that eventually."
Dry sense of humour, that's what he's got.
Yeah. Well,
he's very serious on the. He's a very serious man. You don't take Kevin. You don't take as a fool. He's not. He's just not that person.
Well, was it Adrian or was it Kevin who said that none of us really were taken very seriously by the financial institutions at the time because none of us seemed to be very serious of what we were doing, but we were. But we were turning fun into money.
We were turning fun into money.
Into money.
Yeah.
Some of us more money than others, but generally speaking, it was providing our lifestyle for us.
We had, back in the day, we had probably one of the greatest jobs anybody could ever have because
I'll go with that.
We would travel to most fantastic places
around the world.
We'd get to these places and then everybody knew everybody. So it was like a little party that would just go from different places.
Well, I remember Dennis Harburn, who sadly, we're at a time of life now, mate, where people aren't with us anymore. Yeah. Dennis Harburn ran Shaw UK.
Okay.
Yeah. And he said, "Do you want to come and see the QSC factory in California?" I went, "Yeah, I might do that." So I went with him and he said, "The real reason we're here is they'll tell you all about their amplifiers and you've got to look interested." And then it's all about all sorts of things. He said, "We get a day off the next day He said, and there's a fantastically huge vinyl warehouse downtown I'll take you to.
Oh,
And he wasn't kidding, mate. It must have been the size of a bloody football pitch. What did you want? The guy would run off and get it.
Oh, that's
You
just
could say, oh, I bet you haven't got, Frank Zappa Hot Rats first edition on that blue label. Off he'd go.
when like when you was when you was at the height of retailing.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, you must have sold Martin gear. You must have sold Abstract gear. You must have sold NJD.
Red Dragons.
Do you remember the Red Dragon? Do you remember that?
Do you remember Manhattan Lighting?
Manhattan Lighting. Oh my goodness.
What was his name?
Oh, Manhattan. You know that, isn't it?
Two brothers, wasn't it?
It was two brothers.
And they were American, I believe, or Canadian.
Yeah.
And they were over in this country. And I always remember him saying, I want you to have a look at this. He put a mirror on a motor. And at the other end of this bar, he'd put a pin spot. And he went, look at this.
Oh, fantastic.
I bet he wished he'd painted that, because that turned into a moving head, didn't it?
It did. It turned into the first.
We all went, don't be stupid, you'll never catch on, blah, blah, blah. And it turned into the moving head.
It did. Well, it turned into the Wangley scanner, didn't it? Start.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the big thing. That was where it all began. Then somebody decided.
Before DMX as well, I hasten to add 0 to 10.
Yeah.
Or if you were a mode customer, 0 to -10. Had to be different, didn't they?
It did, but I mean, a lot of like young people that watch these sort of podcasts will probably be thinking, what are you on about? I mean, I remember when DMX. I mean, now it's pin 3, but there were times when it was pin 2 hot.
Bloody Abstract used to do that.
Well, Martin did, because we copied Martin. That's what happened. So Martin had pin 2 hot, yeah. Packy had pin 3 hot on 5-pin XLR, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, not only that, Paul Martin decided DMX was crap and he'd invent PMX.
He did. He came out
with Pulsar multiplex.
He did, yeah. He did.
And then he thought he'd use pin 4 and 5 for something called reporting, which we now call RDM. But yeah. So he was a bit ahead of his time and never really did it. Bill somebody, Manhattan, Steve.
Was it?
Bill somebody.
Gosh.
Oh, I'll tell you what, as soon as this podcast is over, it'll come.
You'll remember it then.
Yeah.
But there's some like very, very strange products out there. Do you remember that? It was like a pin spot on the end of a snake arm. And it used to just sort of like sit there like...
Ian did that, didn't he? Ian from...
Do you remember that? It was like...
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's on 2 cams.
It was.
Yeah.
With like a hose pipe over the top of it, not a hose pipe.
That's about it, wasn't it? Yeah. And also, I remember the days of the you will never make a plastic scanner.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
You'll never make a plastic scanner. You can't, because the lamp's too hot and it'll all melt.
Yeah. Do you remember
that? That was a battle for a while, wasn't it?
It was.
And then I ended up putting, I think it was 8 or 10 VRXs in the Rose and Crown in Rimini.
You did? That's right. We was
along with Paul McCallum, Wembley loudspeakers, because we went down especially to put all that lot in.
Because we decided we was going to sponsor the Rose and Crown pub. Yeah. And you went in, put it all in for us, you remember?
Yep.
And then we had all them signs up, Abstract in the roof. And then the bus turns up with all the Martin Professional cronies on that have come from their like annual party.
Yeah.
Peter Johansson walks in first, to his horror, seeing abstract everywhere.
That was the idea though, wasn't it?
And as he walked up, right, Rob walked up to him and put a cocktail stirrer stick in his top pocket with Abstract on.
Mate, I hope people, when they watch this and see us both chuckling away and reminding each other of things, gets an impression of how it was. Of course, we've just had some fun and a bit of nostalgia, granted, but it's how it was.
Yeah.
We'd still be doing business. I've seen some cracking deals signed off in the Rose and Crown at 3 a.m.
Gordon Addison, a chap in the industry, he works on that theory. He doesn't it doesn't take his business ever to an exhibition. He goes to the bar and he just buys everyone a drink. It costs him probably 4,000 or 5,000 quid for the week. Yeah. But to him, that's a really cheap exhibition.
Well, it is, isn't it?
And he writes all the business up at night time in the bar.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I was always taught, I can't remember who it was now, who taught me. It might have been Bob from Anytronics.
Oh, no, I remember Anytronics.
Bubble.
Yeah, Bubble, yeah.
Bubble. He always said to me, he said, let one ear and one eye get drunk. Keep your other eye and your other ear on what's going on. And before you go to sleep, what you've learnt, write it down.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I've been doing it ever since. So you wake up in the morning, you go, right, that was the name of that guy, and he's on this stand and he does this. Off you go.
Fantastic. I mean, what absolutely. You see, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, and you'd be probably in the similar category as me. You know, people would look at me, and I'm sure they've looked at you in the same way over the years, and they think, you know, these guys are just jokers. You know, they're like giggling around. You know, they're messing around all the time. But the reality is that we were, of course, we were jokers, and we used to love having a lot of fun. But in the back of our heads, we were solid businessmen as well.
Absolutely.
You know, I know it didn't start that way, and I grant you that. We started probably as, you know, DJs messing around and playing music and whatever. Mm. But eventually we did grasp business, you know, like you quite rightly said, you grasped it. And we then became dangerous because we were the jokers that no one took seriously.
Yeah. I believe in that famous scene out of that film, you know, this is a knife. So it's like, don't look at the outside of me. You got to worry about what's going on in here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No, I'd just rather have, you know, a few houses here and there. And it's not many, it's not big time, it's no company, it won't ever be a company, but it's going to pay me to sit here, talk to you, have a fridge in the garage full of beer, a car in the garage, only one now. Yeah. You know, all that stuff. Well, you ain't got your chopper anymore, have you?
No.
Well, we all get a bit sensible, don't we?
Yeah. Well, the chopper had to go. I mean, when I had my divorce.
Something you don't know, Steve, is I never had a chopper, but I learnt to fly.
Did you really? No, I didn't know that. Did you?
I learnt to fly Coventry School of Flying. It was.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Very good school of flying there.
And we can, you know, as you know, you can have what they call a club chopper. You can rent it out and go out with people and stuff. Yeah. I never took it very far. Again, wanted to do it for a bit of fun. I like helicopters because they can hover and you can spin them around and do all this sort of stuff. And then, as I'm preaching to the converted here, they're safer than fixed wing.
Only because not being a commercial pilot, but being private pilots.
Yeah.
You know, at my height, I would probably be doing sort of maybe 60, 70 hours a year, which is quite a lot in flying terms because you go a long way in those 60.
You've got to keep it up and all.
You've got to keep it up.
Yeah.
And what I noticed, because I've flown fixed wing and I've flown helicopters, I've done both, but I rested with helicopters because, you know, we're not as brilliant in weather as what a commercial pilot's going to be. And with a helicopter, you're going to hit bad weather almost every time you go out within reason. Yeah. And you could just put it down somewhere if you wanted to. So I would say that the reason I survived 14, 15 years in flying helicopters without crashing it or hurting anybody, including myself, is that I had the ability and the sensibility to say, right, this weather looks shit, right?
Yeah.
No, land. And I'd just go and land in a field and wait, you know, and if it took
that's it.
an hour, you know, you just have a little rest, don't you? The weather would go by and you take off again and you carry on.
Keep it going a little bit so you don't sink in the soft ground.
There you go. Done that before, mate. Done that.
Yeah. I'm afraid I haven't all. Get the spade out. You're thinking, I've got a spade and I've got £250,000 quid of the helicopter here. What am I doing?
I know.
10 quid spade, you know.
I'll tell you a funny story. I mean, all aircraft have batteries. Clearly, they all have to have.
Yeah.
That's how you start the engines, even the big, you know, billion-pound aircraft.
Well, they get plugged in, don't they? So yeah,
they've all got, you know, and so one day we landed in near Bromsgrove at a pub, and we landed in the car park. And we got this really flash-looking helicopter. I'd rented it. It wasn't my one. It was a big one. It was a Jet Ranger, and we landed.
Oh, you went that far, did you? I didn't.
Yeah, I went that far, yeah. And so then we went and had dinner, and come back out, and then I tried to start it, and it's dead. I'm like, what? Somehow or another, I don't know why, but the battery had gone flat. Right. So we had to put jump leads from some bloke's truck onto the helicopter to charge it up. Yeah.
Great.
And I'd sit in. Obviously, with a Jet Ranger, you got a joystick and it's all a bit more proper. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to start your turbine engine. Yeah. And so I'm waiting for the battery to come up. So I see the positive voltage, and it's like tick 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 tick.
Yeah, off you go.
And then we pull off the jump leads. But can you imagine anybody
jump in and get lost? Yeah.
Oh, look at that bloke! He's had to jump start his helicopter.
And nobody believe him anyway.
It is.
We've just all got. I look at the industry, and I'm still in touch with a lot of UKD customers because some of them became my friends. And I had a coffee with one a few weeks ago, and he came out with a phrase which I think is very good. I said, "John, what are you doing now?" He says, "A bit of the same, but I don't have to because, funny enough," he says, "I've got a few rental properties." He says, "So I'm doing a bit of that, and I've got my install business." So he was very parallel to me, and he said, "The problem now," and he said, "is that the landscape of the industry has changed."
Yeah, makes sense.
He says it's now all about the only way people can grow is by buying other people. Then they become big enough to attract the financial institutions and what I affectionately call vulture capitalists.
That's it, isn't it?
And then it's not your business anymore, and you're fighting for turnover and sales and shareholders stuff and everything. And all of a sudden, that speaker box or whatever it is you make that you liked, it's not part of your day anymore. And and from a customer's point of view, who am I dealing with? I don't know anybody at that company anymore.
We can always be proud of at Abstracts over the 30 years. Yeah. It's still, you can still get in contact with me.
Personal.
Still get in contact with Graham. And Rob obviously left us years back, and he became Install LED and made himself a fortune selling LED tape. Rob did.
Yeah.
So, you don't ever need to worry about how Rob got.
The thing is, Steve, none of us, right? None of us, right? None of us particularly have been in the league of top 100 businesses. That's not what we started for. None of us have done 50 million, 60 million turnovers. None of us have done that. But we've had bloody good lives, and we've met a lot of people, and we're enriched by it.
Yes.
And so the things we've learned and what we do, you can't buy anyway. So it doesn't matter what money you get. I mean, I've got a lady now. We've bought a little house in a village just up the A1. And, it's big enough for a music room for me, which was my first thing. I have a little office, which I'm talking to you in now. And fantastic, mate. What do I want any more for?
That's it. That's it. And that's the beauty, isn't it? Because when you get older, you simplify. Everything's simple.
Choice. You need money for choice. So when you go down the car lot, you buy the car you want, not the car you can afford.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time for this podcast. I really,
it's been a laugh, as we say. And hopefully, it's interesting for people to watch.
Absolutely, but you need to just turn around and get me another record out. One more. Come on, you got to.
I expect to hear these.
Stretch out now for the next one.
I'll tell you what, mate. Can I have a go at Christmas?
Come on, let's see what you can come out with.
Here we go. Christmas. My Christmas collection of horrible singles. There we go.
It's got to be. You got to have that box full of junk.
Oh, you can't have that one, mate. Everybody plays that. I'm trying to find something stupid. Oh, it's going to be a cold Christmas. Dana.
Is it Dana? Cold Christmas, Dana.
You can't play that, mate.
There you go. That's just brilliant, isn't it?
The other one's Dennis Waterman and George Cole. Oh, what a laugh.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, you know, good luck to everybody else. I might be bowing out of LSS, but it was a win-win, Steve. It was a win-win because I was thinking of retiring on the 6th of September anyway.
Yeah.
Colin last November made me an offer.
Fantastic.
So we started the ball rolling there. I know a lot of people think COVID did it, but the ball was rolling well before that. And yeah, well, you know, I'll be out. But the win-win really was it doesn't shut and people don't lose their jobs.
What would you say, just before we finish, if you could think back, right, on and when you were selling stuff, what would be the biggest selling product you ever sold? If you could say one product was the one that you sold the most. I know you was into sound.
This will make
what
you
was
laugh.
the one biggest selling thing you ever sold?
A thing we called the corkscrew, which was basically a twister, mate.
Was it? Was it?
An 8-byte program system.
Was
I was
program
ordering
system
them by the palletful.
Really?
The second best selling thing was the Ice Mix 6000 made by Ice Electrics, because even Rob said, where are you putting all these? You know, so yeah, I remember banging them out the door at least 2 or 3 a week.
Let's have the third one. What was the third one?
Oh, third one. It could well, Pyro, mate, in the day.
Was it Pyro?
Pyro and all Rick's stuff, because we had the Belgrade Theatre and the Royal Shakespeare Company buy us. And in those days, they could buy from, they didn't have contracts for people. So we were delivering to those 2 theatres and lots of amateur dramatics people. Discos were using them. You can't now. Good old health and safety boys. And the mini mist smoke machine with a canister. Yeah. I used one myself because you could do it hands-free. Well, cord-free.
Yeah.
Couldn't you? You know? Once it heated up, you could take it off the mains and walk around with it.
Fantastic.
Because it used the pressure of the canister.
Fantastic, mate. Well, thank you very much. Wish you
Cheers, Steve.
fantastic for the future with your rental properties. You know, don't get too big.
Mate, give it 4 or 5 years, I shall start to be selling them off, because you've got to realise when your time's up, you know.
Well, of course you have, mate. Of course you have.
And I'm a ski, spending kids' inheritance. I've worked too hard. I ain't giving it away when I'm dead.
It's probably, you know what? No one's ever given me anything in my lifetime, mate. Never.
I've had some advice, is what I've been given. That's what I could say. Nobody's ever given me a chunk.
No, me neither. Me neither. It's never happened and probably never will do.
No, we'll work for it, and that's what makes us respect it.
It is, and thank you for that. And I bid you well, and take care.
You too, mate.
Talk again soon.
I'll see you soon. Ta-ra, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.